not hurting animals. So now, if that devotee had not grown in that field, say, I will not do this. Well, the field would not have been affected at all. People will still keep doing that. And you would have simply not grown in your career also. But in this case, they did what they had to do. They had to do it as less as possible. But eventually they grew and now they created a whole field. At least one research unit over there. So these are all decisions which are subtle and we have to decide them according to time, place, circumstance. So like the same factor of intent, content, consequence, we consider that. And sometimes we might do a small evil so that we can we can create a structure to prevent a bigger evil. Or if we don't feel that, we might say, I want to take this principle, I will avoid this small evil entirely. That's also okay. So it has to be according to scriptural guidance as understood according to our guides and our own godly intelligence. Okay? Thank you. Okay, so I became yoga brashta in this class today. So the story, I'll just quickly conclude with the story from the Ramayana, which I'm going to tell briefly. And the lesson from that. See, the Ramayana, when Lord Ram is in the forest, at that time, he goes and meets various sages. So there are two sages who meets, they're not very well known, Sarabhanga and Sudikshna. So when he meets Sarabhanga, at that time, he is just coming towards Sarabhanga and he sees a magnificent chariot in front of that sage's hermitage. And as they're looking at it, now they're kings and they have been princes, so they know big, magnificent chariots. But this chariot is far, far bigger and better. And look, whose chariot is this? It does not look like an earthly chariot. And then they come out and then they're waiting and observing, and then they see a effulgent personality coming out from the hermitage. This is not the sage. As they observe, they understand this is Indra. And Indra gets into the chariot, and then the chariot rises into the sky and disappears. And then when it disappears into the sky, at that time, they go forward, and then Sarabhanga sees this comes. Sarabhanga, Lord Ram is playing the Naralila. So he offers the respect to Sarabhanga. Sarabhanga also offers respect to him. Lord, you are the Lord. And then Sarabhanga and Ram asks him, what is going on over here? So what happened? Why had Indra come here? He said, Indra had come to me to offer the results of my punya. He said, I have done punya for a long time, and now, based on my punya, I can go to Swarga. So he had come to take me to Swarga. Then you didn't go? He said, no. He said, my dear Lord, my Guru had told me that you would come and give me a darshan. And I consider your darshan to be far greater than Swarga. So, therefore, although Indra came and told me you can come with me to Swarga, I did not go. And you have blessed me now. And your darshan is far bigger, because by your darshan one can attain amrutatva, not just amaratva, but amrutatva, immortality, not just eternality one can attain. So the Lord blesses him and says, live for this life, exhaust your karma, and then you will never come back to this world. You will attain the eternal world. So Sarabhanga, he was living in this world. He could go to, the good was going to Swarga. The best is going to Vaikuntha, going to the spiritual world. So for him, the good could have become the enemy of the best. So he rejected the good so that he can get the best. Of course, in Kali Yuga, practically nobody is doing the kind of punya to go to Swarga. Now almost everybody's house you go, they write below that either related to the pastor Swargavasi or Kailashvasi or whatever. But who knows where they are going? So you really don't know where they are going. But the point is that yes, there is the path of going to heaven by punya. There is the path of going to the spiritual world by bhakti. And there is also the path of going down towards adhogachanti tamasa, towards the hellish ways by papa. In Kali Yuga, very few people are doing punya. So practically there are only two choices. There is papa or there is bhakti. But while doing bhakti, we can also do punya. So that the whole point of that class was that if we have to choose between punya and bhakti, if I start doing punya and saying, then no need to do bhakti. I'm taking care of my family, I'm doing my family responsibilities, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. There's no need for me to chant Hare Krishna. then punya becomes the opponent of bhakti. And punya can take us away from bhakti. But while practicing bhakti, if we have come from a family which has taught us punya, we are living in a community that is pious or virtuous, then that can be a very good foundation on which you can build our bhakti. So in that way, as devotees, we don't reject morality, but we transcend morality. As devotees want to please Krishna, and one way we please Krishna is by directly doing devotional activities. Another way we please Krishna is by living in the world in a way that attracts people to Krishna. And that means acting in a responsible, moral, as Prabhupada said, gentlemanly way. And that way, this kind of the parallel with the practice of bhakti can not only help us grow spiritually, but it can also help us to contribute socially in whatever roles we are playing in society. So I'll summarize quickly what I spoke. So I spoke on this topic of how the good can oppose the best and as well support the best. So I talked about the bad is papa, where we are simply driven by impulses without considering anything higher. All animals are driven by impulses, but human beings, our impulses, if we just give in to them, then we start using our intelligence to do more harm with the impulses. All animals kill, but humans construct slaughterhouses to kill. All animals indulge in the mating impulse, but humans can create a whole industry of abortion. So we can become, animals don't become evil when they act according to the impulses. We humans can become terribly evil. So papa happens when we just consider impulses and the immediate pleasure that comes from the impulses. Now we humans have the capacity to go beyond our impulses. Because we can fast even if we feel hungry, I'll not take this food. So intelligence is the capacity to check our impulses. That means to evaluate it and then to regulate it. So now when we regulate it, we humans have that intelligence to sacrifice the present for the future. That means that giving into the impulse may give me pleasure immediately, but restraining the impulse can give me some long-term gain. So now how much long-term? That degree varies in punya and bhakti. In punya, say now a person can just enjoy sensually and not care for anything. That is papa. And if society goes to that level, the parents may abandon their children, like I talked about that boy, or they may have no children only, or they may think that children are a burden. Society will collapse by that. But when there is some long-term understanding, then parents make children, but the children make parents. So having a sense of responsibility in society is important, and you can say that is broadly punya. But we can't think only that much long-term, because even that is temporary. It's certainly longer than just immediate pleasure. But even what we achieve in this life is temporary. Even what we achieve in heaven is also temporary. So I talk about the 4 levels. There is Martya, Amara, Chiranjiva and Nitya. So the ultimate long term is the Nitya. And that comes when we devote ourselves to Krishna and practice bhakti. So punya, if it is seen as an alternative to the bhakti, then it becomes the enemy of bhakti. Then the good becomes the enemy of the bad. So people say, Manav Seva hi Madhav Seva. Then what is happening? They are doing Manav Seva and they reject Madhav Seva. Then that kind of Manav Seva is bad. But if you see Madhav Seva, not just as just worshipping the deities or chanting, but as a whole culture in which we connect ourselves and the world with Krishna. Then various kinds of activities, humanitarian activities or various isms as Prabhupada says, we can Krishnaize them, we can spiritualize them. And thus, when we are doing it this way, then the good can also become the friend of the aid of the best. And while practicing bhakti, we understand that I am doing some things, I am taking something from the world, and I need to give something back to the world. Ultimately, I am taking from Krishna and I am giving to Krishna, but I can give back to Krishna through various channels. And while deciding how to do charity, where to do charity, we talk about these 3 principles: intent, content, and consequence. Based on that, we, according to time, place, circumstances, make a sound decision. And there are certain things which, if somebody is already inspired to do something charitable or social service kind of activity, then they can spiritualize that. That's a preference. So there is no need to campaign for a preference that everybody has to do. There is no need to campaign against a preference saying that this is not This is not the principle. So preferences are preferences, and there is room for them. So if you make preferences into principles, that becomes fanatical. And if you reject the possibility for preferences itself, that also becomes fanatical. So there is a room for individual inspiration, and talk about dharma as like a pyramid. It's not just you're dharmic or adharmic. There are multiple levels of dharma. And some people may spit at the level of Kshatriyas eat meat, are allowed to eat meat, but the Kshatriya also has other dharma. We can't just take the concessions and neglect the recommendations. It's a whole package. And based on intent, content, and consequence, when we wisely choose, then through all our activities we can stay connected with Krishna and stay on the progressive path. As Prabhupada said, that we should be like ladies and gentlemen. That means we function in the way that will attract people towards our spiritual side. So people will not be directly attracted to our spiritual side, but through our behavior and our functioning in the world, people can be attracted to us, and then be attracted to our spiritual side. Just as Sarabhanga rejected heaven so that he would get Lord Ram's darshan, and ultimately Lord Ram's abode. Similarly, if the good becomes the competitor of the best, we need to give up the good so that we can pursue the best. And most situations, the good and the best can move in parallel. Where there are some activities that are directly devotional, other activities which are devotionalized to whatever extent we can. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki. Thank you very much.
Prabhu, today I saw a board, the big board sign, the advertisement. They put try, don't be a chicken, try a turkey.
Try it.
What?
Try what?
Try turkey.
Don't be a chicken, try a turkey.
Like some people say that, oh, you have to give up smoking, take up alcoholism.
Can we ask one question?
Maybe we can talk one to one. I mean, I'm here only. You want to take prasadam, we can talk. Or you want to serve prasadam here itself? Or where are you going to serve prasadam?
Or the basement.
Basement.
Okay, we can talk here together.